no, no, I get up, no, 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 I get up, no, no, can't deny it, no, no, I get up, no, 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 I get up.
All right, welcome to another episode of Discover a Thriver. I'm your host, Ethan.
My name is Arthur.
And we have with us a very good friend, Steve Urchin, who is known very well in the industry as, you know, that person that helped a lot of the artists in Jamaica, you know, become the artists that you hear and see today. Steve, thank you very much for joining us on this epic Sunday.
Thank you for having me.
Welcome, Steve. First, we're gonna start off with some fire questions, if you don't mind. My fire question is: what is the most funky or weird experience you've experienced during your career?
Most funky or weird experience? Man, that is a long list. I'm not gonna lie.
I just choose and pick one.
I'd say probably the strangest occurrence was a tie when they're both in Africa. So Uganda, the first time we went to Uganda, we weren't sure what to expect. You know, we landed there, and there was all these Rastas at the airport with these massive signs, as if, you know, they thought like Bob Marley was coming, and we were like, oh, who are these signs for? And they were like, it's for you guys. And so I was just like, wow, this is crazy. Like the Rasta, community there is so big, and then just absolutely welcoming him so warmly. And then we were driving up from the airport, and the streets were like for about 2 or 3 miles just lined with people,
wow,
like a motorcade. And we were like, wow, this is crazy. You know, these people are all expecting us, and they were like, yeah. And then we're driving along, and we had the windows down, and people are throwing things at the van, you know. And we're like, oh, wind the windows up. You know, people are throwing stuff at us, you know. And then somebody was like, no, it's spliffs. Wind the windows down.
What?
And they had rolled all these joints, and they're throwing them like darts.
For real? What?
Like, here, you know, try mine. Welcome to Uganda.
What?
That was the craziest, welcome ever.
That is epic. Oh my goodness.
The opposite side of the spectrum was, I won't say the country, but we went to a country, and we had to change the promoter of the show at the last minute. And the new promoter didn't agree on his fair share of the airfares. He thought that he could have gotten cheaper airfares, but he wanted to fly us on some crazy airline that we never heard of. And we're like, no, we're only flying, recognizable, first like top ranked airlines. And he was really angry about it, but he paid. And then after the show, he basically locked the stadium, and he wouldn't let anybody out of the stadium.
What?
And then eventually I had to negotiate sort of with me as the trading card, saying I'll stay here and work it out with you and let everybody else leave. So everybody else left, and then this guy took me down into like a room in the bottom annals of this stadium, and there was all these security forces there and basically threatening me, and then eventually the guy took me in his car, and he had a gun on me, and he was driving through a cane piece, and I was basically kind of like temporarily kidnapped, let's put it that way.
Wow.
And then eventually I decided to talk him down, and I told him I didn't have the money with me, it was at the hotel. We got back to the hotel, and I had the money in my pocket the whole time. And I took it out, and I had water, and I threw it at the guy. And I said, I'm going to blacklist you, and no one's ever going to work with you ever again. And it was really unfortunate, because the people of that country were so friendly and such a great show. But the guy he didn't get the business at all. And it was just really unfortunate. But it was a crazy story that I get to tell my grandkids.
Yeah, definitely. Wow, that's crazy. Wow, that's definitely a crazy story.
All right, so can you walk us through the start, like you growing up in Jamaica, and what really got you into the industry? Like, did you always know that you wanted to be in music growing up?
Yeah, I think. I was born in Jamaica. I grew up in Jamaica until I was 7, 8 years old, and then my parents both moved to Michigan State University. They went to do their PhDs, both my mom and my dad, because they're both lecturers at the University of the West Indies. And so we went and lived in Michigan, we landed in the blizzard of 1977. So we were met by snow, which none of us had ever seen before. Which was, at that age for me, it was great. We spent 4 years in Michigan, And during that time, my older brother, who's 5 years older than me, he discovered rock and roll. So he discovered like his favorite band was Kiss.
Oh, so that explains the T-shirt then.
So he would bring home like these crazy looking, back days, back those LPs, and Kiss had 2 double albums. So he'd fold them out, and it was these huge pictures of them performing these pyrotechnic concerts, and I was just like, to me it was like cartoon characters, because they all wore makeup, and they all had like a superhero kind of persona. And so for me it was like, this is like the culmination of everything that I could have ever wanted to see, was music in a theatrical way with like these cartoon character superheroes, and I was like, I was totally into it. When I was 8 years old and I bought my first record, it was one of the Kiss albums.
Wow.
And my older brother was super happy because he got to like delve into my allowance to buy more records. And from then, like I always had a fascination with the spectacle of music and the spectacle of entertainment. I always been particularly interested in the live or video presentations of music, and I didn't, when I went to high school in Jamaica, there was no kind of options of, pushing you into a stream that would help you with music. It was kind of like, if you couldn't play a recorder or play a piano, then you weren't going to be, pushed into music. And then I went to University of the West Indies. I did mass communication there, because that was the closest thing, again, to any kind of a music or entertainment program. Nowadays, thankfully, there's music management programs in most of our tertiary institutions. So I got to give credit to the Ministry of Education for doing that, because it's all part of mining, to me, what our greatest natural resource is, and it was something that was very difficult for me in high school, because I wasn't a good student. I didn't do well in high school. I managed to graduate from university with second-class honors, God knows how. But it was difficult for me, because I couldn't find anything that I really was engaged in, or that I felt was taking me closer to what I wanted to do, which was to be in music or entertainment. So most of my education in those early years came from outside. I started throwing parties at my parents' house when I was 14 years old. My parents would go away for the weekend, and me and my older brother would charge people money to come to our house, get liquor on consignment. We hired the campus police to be our security at the gate. I'm like, no. And then he found out how much money we were making. He was like, well, I'll help you. So that was kind of my entrance into entertainment. And then before I even finished my last exam at UWI, I had already landed my first job in entertainment, which was working in artist relations at Reggae Sunsplash, which was like the legendary festival.
Reggae Sunsplash, yeah.
And interestingly, the guy who hired me for that job is Sean's booking agent, Sean Paul's booking agent to this very day. So
oh, wow.
I got to give that guy thanks for giving me my start, and then still being by my side all these years later. That's Jerome Hamilton. And you should have Jerome on your show too. He has some
for sure.
Stories as well.
Yeah, I think I got connected with him once recently. I think I've been speaking with him when I was trying to get shown here in Bali last year. So I think I'll double check. But if not, you will obviously hook up the connection.
Yeah.
But so when did you start with Tuff Gong Records?
So my first job was working there at that company, and then I went on to work for Tuff Gong, where I worked with the Marleys, which was pretty awesome. Just absolutely, legends working with them. I never got to see Bob or meet him in my life, but I know I met all the kids and worked with them. Which was pretty great. It's like reggae royalty,
Exactly.
And then after that, I went on to work for Chris Blackwell's Island Jamaica, which I think is the only time, if I'm not mistaken, that a major label tried to open an office in Jamaica. And so I worked there for a couple of years, and then I left and started my own company, which is Mystic Urchin Music, where I started managing artists and putting out records. And it was very like the alternative music scene in Jamaica at the time was kind of my main, my mainstay and my focus. So a lot of cafe and small bar kind of shows. And then that's when I met, but that's when I started doing business with Fahrenheit, who's now known as Fahrenheit. And we did 3 albums together actually. And then during that time, being around the music industry, met a lot of people. I knew Sean from high school and from swim club days.
Oh, okay.
And Jeremy Harding, who was managing Sean at the time, I'd gone to high school with Jeremy and actually lost a airband competition against him in high school. So
I want to hear that story too.
He was doing him and his friends were doing Houdini Friends, and me and my friends were doing Van Halen Jump. So I think maybe we might have lost something in translation. But Jeremy tipped me and he called me and he said, "Hey, look, Sean's really starting to take off, and I need a road manager who understands the game and who understands the American side." And that whole MTV, BET thing was really big at the time, like back when MTV actually showed music on TV.
Yeah, right. The TRLs.
And so I started working with Sean, and it was, he had gone through a couple of different road managers who were kind of like guys trying to, fit the part, and I was the only person who really was into music and understood entertainment and knew the background of a lot of things that were going on and stuff. So it was awesome. Like we just, got on the road, and Sean was just sort of beginning to break. Give Me the Light was just starting to break, and I got to be there for all of that history. And then it was like a blur happened over the next 3 years where Sean just absolutely went stratospheric, and it was crazy. We barely were home for 3 years straight. Like we'd be coming home, and it would be like, okay, you're not coming home again. You have to go do this thing there and that thing there, and we'd be buying clothes. And me and Sean have a luggage collection from those days, because every time we went on the road, we leave with one suitcase and come home with 3. We had to buy so much clothes around the road, So that's how I got hooked up with Sean. And then over the years, as management teams changed, my roles changed and got bigger, and now I co-manage Sean with Jules Dougal and Sean's brother Zigzag. So that's our management team now, and it's just been awesome. I've been with Sean. This year will make 20 years I've been working with Sean.
20 years. So this is the 20-year anniversary. Wow, this is
my
actually
20-year anniversary.
This is actually a privilege.
That's incredible. That's incredible. I was wondering, like, can you give us more insights in what are your responsibilities as being a artist manager? Because I don't think a lot of people understand what that means, being an artist manager for Sean Paul or for many other artists.
Yeah. So earlier on in my career, when I was working with Ireland and with Tuff Gong, I did a lot of road management for other artists as well. So that kind of prepared me to be Sean's road manager. And then being a road manager at that time literally meant being the manager on the road, not like just managing the shows, but also everything that would happen and come up. And so in the early days, it was like I was Sean's stylist, I was his security, I was his DJ, I was everything. I was head cook and bottle washer, as they say in Jamaica. And then as time went on and he got more successful and the show prices went up, we got to build out the team. I was a terrible DJ, so that was the first person. I was a DJ.
So you did DJ also?
I was decent at security, so we didn't have to hire one of those until a little bit later. But and so it was very interesting, because what happens is when you start off that way, you sort of have a circuit training in all the different jobs that you're going to hire somebody for, right? So what that means is when I hire a publicist or a PR or a videographer or a security, anything, like I have a purvey of what I know they need to do, because I've done it myself, albeit very badly, but I've done it, so I know what's needed. So I would say that being a manager, it's very important that you have a overall understanding of every job that you're going to hire somebody to do. You need to know how to do it yourself, and then just so you can keep them in check and make sure that you're hiring the best person.
Right. Right.
So there's just aspects of everything. You're in the studio, you're at shows, you're at TV shows, you're at video shoots, you're at photo shoots, you're everywhere. And so you have to be the overseer of everything and making sure that things go right. I kind of compare being an artist manager to being a movie editor. It's like the only time anybody notices your job is when you do it badly, right? Mm-hmm. If you're doing your job well, then no one ever notices that you're doing a job.
Yeah.
Right. So when you go watch a movie, you don't watch a movie and go, "Wow, that editing was really great." You don't. Yeah. You just you feel a seamlessness throughout the movie experience, and that's if you're an editor, then you go, "Wow, that editing was really good." But if you're not an editor, you just go, "That movie was great."
Yeah.
And so it's kind of a thing like that where no one ever stops and says, "Hey, you as a manager, you're doing a great job."
Yeah.
You know, it's usually if something messes up, then it's like, where was his manager? Why didn't his manager stop me? Right?
Yeah.
So it's a kind of a thankless job in that way, but it's really rewarding to when something comes together, you see it and go, okay, like, you know, I oversaw
Exactly.
that not screwing up at any point, basically.
Yeah. I didn't screw up.
Yeah, exactly. You know, I didn't allow anybody to screw up on my watch.
Yeah, that's amazing.
So when, like from a up and coming artist, when do you think is the right time to probably enlist an agent versus, you know, having a manager first? Or do you think someone should get an agent first or vice versa? Like, because a lot of people also, especially in Trinidad, the agent and manager roles are like blurred, and like for a lot of people they think that the manager is supposed to do everything, and then or the agent, or they just have an agent and they don't know that that's not a manager. Like, how do you think and when do you think it would be the best time to have that?
But so that's interesting, right? Because I don't think that's a Trinidad thing. I think that's a worldwide thing. Is that when you're an upcoming artist, if you have a manager or an agent at all, that person definitely fulfills both and many roles. As I was just saying, when I first started working with Sean, I was doing wearing a lot of different hats, right? And that is what happens. Is an agent is, just for clarity, an agent is somebody who secures your shows, books your shows, and your appearances, and keeps your calendar. That's what an agent is to me, right? And then a manager is somebody who, you know, works hand in hand with an agent and sort of pilots your whole career and makes sure everything is on even keel and that there's a strategy being applied to, you know, what you're doing, and that you're not just reacting to things when things happen. You're also proactive, right? About, okay, let's make a plan. Where do we want to be? How do we want to do this? When do we want the album to drop? When should we go on tour here? When should we go on tour there? Now, the truth is that in the beginning of an artist's career, it's hard to have an agent or a manager because you're not making enough money to feed yourself, much less to now carve out 15-20% to be able to, or, you know, to pay a manager. And if you're making $100 a month, you can't afford to give $20 a month to somebody, and that $20 a month is not going to keep them, you know, focused or fed. So a lot of times what happens is with artists is, in their early career, their manager is usually like a friend or a family member, somebody who's just kind of like, well, I'm here anyway, so if you need help, you know, I can help you. And then I think what makes a lot of sense for an artist is to take on a established industry person as a consultant at first. So you're not necessarily saying, okay, look, you're my manager, but you're saying, I recognize that I've gotten to a point where I probably need some advice and some guidance, but I can't afford a full-time person. So go to that person and say, hey, you know what? I have $200 a month, $300 a month, $100 a month. How much time from you can I get? And sometimes one phone call with somebody like that can really be great if you have somebody, like I said, a family or a friend who's sitting there going, okay, I'm an intelligent person, I understand business. So when this person explains things to me, I can go, oh, that makes sense, I get it, and then try to help implement those things in the artist's career. And I think that's a good way to do it. And then as you build, take on more time from that consultant until you get to the point where you're like, okay, we either feel like we know enough to go on without you, or we now are making enough money to employ you full time.
Like you're just saying about the fact that you do so many things during your career, during being an artist manager, and also like you travel a lot. You have to be constantly on the road together with Jean Paul, and then being all away from home. But you're also a father of three. How do you combine how do you manage your own time, your personal time?
So honestly, that's probably the most difficult part, because in entertainment, being successful means you're away from home a lot, right? And it's something that's very difficult for family to deal with and to understand. And, you know, I've missed a lot of my kids' birthdays, you know, just being away working. And it's not something that you like or enjoy. But I think that just honest communication and constantly trying to reach out and being there, and like when I go away, I'm always calling home. I'm showing them pictures of where I am, and then I bought my kids a globe, and so when if I'm going somewhere, I say, "This is where Daddy's going," and I show them on the globe, and you know, I try to involve them as much as possible, so they don't feel like, oh, he's just gotten on a plane and disappeared. We don't have no idea where he is or what he's doing. and then when I come back, I always try to bring things that are significant from that place, so they can feel like, even by a little tiny bit, like they traveled there with me, So, when they were younger, I bring home stuffed toys from different places. I brought a camel from Dubai, that kind of thing. So they're like, oh, so they have camels there? Did you see camels? And they get engaged in the whole process.
Yeah.
And then other than that, it's just being extremely honest with them about the fact that, if I don't work, you don't eat. I think, everybody has some kind of a struggle. The cool thing about entertainment is I don't work a 9 to 5. So when I'm home all the time. I'm home the whole day. Most of the day I'm here, I'm with them. So now that's one thing that during COVID has been like a major shift and pivot for everybody, but particularly for people in entertainment is spending a lot more time around your family. And like I've really gotten to know my kids. I've deepened my relationship with my wife. Like it's been
That's
awesome.
Beautiful.
It's been very rough financially, but it's been absolutely amazing, with my kids. And it's something I think about now when I start traveling again. How are they going to adjust to that? And how am I going to adjust to that? It's like, you've been here for, a year. Like you literally haven't left the house in a year. Where are you going? What do you mean you're going on a plane? And then, of course, they also have the travel bug. My kids love to travel. I have a 4-year-old, a 7-year-old, and a 21-year-old who's actually in college. And they all, have the same sort of travel bug and interest as I do. So I think that's one thing that's really great about it, is that you imbue your kids with a curiosity for the world by, showing them these little glimpses of places.
One of the things that I just remembered, as a manager myself and someone that has interest in, scouting for talents, how do you balance or know when you don't need anymore, or not need, but when enough is enough in terms of your responsibilities with each artist? Like, how many artists do you think you could manage, or you should not go over in terms of enlisting as part of your, agency?
I think it's very interesting. I think that it depends on the artists. You have some artists who are very independent thinkers and who just kind of want a strategic guideline, and they can just work almost by themselves. So you have that kind of artist, and then you have the other kind of artists who are like, every single step I make, I need you there to verify and make sure, and and they're more like micro, every little micro thing. I want you to be there and to watch and to see. So I think it depends on how much bandwidth you as a person have, and then how much bandwidth each artist is going to take up. And then of course, a massive part of it is team. You have to have team members, and I think that most of the big successful managers who manage multiple artists have agents who they go, okay, I'm managing this person, and this person is in charge of that guy's day-to-day stuff. And then that person will check in with me once a week and ask me whatever questions and download me information, and then I'll give them a strategy for the next month or the next week or whatever. You know what I mean? And so I think team is a massive part of it. If a team is only as strong as its weakest link. So I mean, if you have agents who are dealing with artists, and the artist feels like, oh, I'm not getting enough time from the main agent, or the smaller agent isn't experienced or smart enough to really help pilot my career, then I think that's a problem. Now, me personally, Sean is somebody who is so big and so all-encompassing and so many moving parts that it's very difficult for me to manage anybody else. And I don't really want to. I've consulted, and I'm open to consulting artists, and because for me it's like I like to help people, and if people are trying to get their start and struggling, then I want to be like, look, you're making a misstep there. Don't do that. Do it this way. And then of course you have all the family, friends, and friends of friends who are like, oh, my daughter. I'm at that age now where everybody's daughter or son is making music. And every week you have a call, oh, can you come and advise my son or my daughter as to what they should do? So you kind of try and keep yourself open to that. But I think it's really important not to stretch yourself too thin. And I think that's one of the reasons why I've been with Sean for 20 years, is that, I always try to make sure that I always have enough time for him. If he needs something, it's not like, oh, well, I can't do it because I'm over here working with whoever else.
Is there any advice you can give, or like any issues a lot of upcoming artists are experiencing that you can maybe talk about, or that you noticed that artists make mistakes, or
I think there are a lot of pitfalls that a lot of people fall into, and then the truth is, I think one of the things that I need to say is that music is very difficult. Entertainment business is very difficult, right? It's easier to win the lottery than it is to make a hit in the music industry.
Wow.
Right? And so I always tell people that if you want to get into music, just make sure that you're not doing it because you think it's an easy way to do something, or you're not doing it because you think you're going to make money or for fame. You're doing it because you love it and you literally can't do anything else. And like I always say, with music and sports, it's like, it's ability, first of all, and it's work ethic. Most of all, actually, it's more work ethic, because I think that, a lot of people are talented and think that they can just ride their talent. You can't. You have to work your ass off, right? The harder you work, the luckier you get. And I think that is something that has to be a passion. It can't be something that you're like, well, I'm going to try this out, and if it doesn't work, then I'll go do something. No. If you're getting into music, understand that you're giving up your soul. Like, I mean, you're absolutely, and then you're also burying yourself daily. Like somebody explained it to me once and said that, imagine you're selling Coca-Cola. Now imagine that instead of selling Coca-Cola, you are Coca-Cola, right? So anytime somebody makes a comment about anything to do with the bottle or the taste or anything, it's you they're commenting on. So it's something that it's very soul-bearing, and it's something that you have to be prepared for. Because if somebody says, oh, I don't like your song or your hair or your video or your look or whatever, people don't feel like they're speaking about a person. They feel like they're speaking about a commodity. And if you are that commodity, you have to be open to just dealing with a lot of, pain in that way, or just being able to deflect it and say, well, okay, not everybody's gonna like me, so that's fine, I'll move on. So it's not an easy industry to get into and ride. You gotta really, it has to be the only thing you want to do.
They always say that the relationship between a manager and a artist is like a marriage. How is the relationship with you and Sean, like in terms of communication, in terms of friendship, family, and how important is that?
I certainly would not say it's like a marriage. But I think it's more, honestly, if anything, it's more like a parent-child relationship than it is like a marriage. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's like, I expect you to do certain things, and you expect me to make sure that you're protected, and give you the breadth and the width to be an artist. I think a lot of what a manager's job is to take the mundane out of the artist's life. Like, I don't want you to have to think about, where am I staying, or how am I getting there, or, how am I going to find clothes to wear, or what studio should I book? You know what I mean? I don't want minutia. I want to take minutia out of the artist's life and give them as much bandwidth to be creative as possible. That's really my job, right? And I think that I've been in with artists and managers where the artist manager is like asking the artist every little question. Hey, what hotel do you want to stay at? Hey, which car do you want to go in? This, and I'm like, yo, you're asking too many questions. You need to let the artist's mind space breathe and just be creative. They shouldn't have to be, and it might sound strange or funny to people who don't understand this, but a creative mind needs to be creative and needs to not be bogged down with the daily details of movement and business. That's my job, right? Yeah. So that's the way, to me, like really where I categorize it. Being a friend of an artist that you're managing, it can work. Sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes it's better if you're not friends. And it is a difficult line to balance on, because Sean and I are friends, and sometimes it can be difficult because he's angry about something, and I'm taking it personally because I'm like, well, I'm your friend, you shouldn't talk to me, that way. And he's like, look, I'm angry about this thing, and it's your job. So if you don't do your job, I have to be angry about it, So it's a bit of a fine line, because we're friends, you'll take it more personal than if you're not, of course. You know what I mean? So it's something I think it's case by case, but I do think it's necessary for a certain respect level to be there, especially for longevity like me and Sean, who trust each other. He knows that I'm never going to put him in harm's way, and I know that if I say, hey, Sean, you need to do X, Y, or Z, he's gonna do it, and he's gonna do it, you know, to the best of his ability. He's not gonna let me down. I'm not gonna let him down.
Yeah, it's give and take, right?
Yeah, it's. I mean, I wouldn't say it's give and take. I think it's more give and give. You know?
Give and give.
Yeah, give and give.
Yeah.
We both have to give. So if any person stops giving, then you know, then it's gonna break down.
Yeah, then there's nothing to have. Why don't you tell us about?
I've had management relationships in the past where I felt like I went out and I laid the carpet out for this person, you know, and to be an artist, and then they don't show up, or they don't show up on time, or they show up and they don't look right, or they show up and they're half-assing it. They're tired, you know, they spend too much time drinking, partying, whatever. They're not doing well at the studio, you know. And I put a team together to be there to record you, and you're blowing it. And to me, that's disrespectful. And to me, it's like, well, I've done my part, and no, you're not showing up and doing yours. Like, I don't care how talented you are. You need to show up and give all you have, you know. And I think that's one thing about Sean, is that his work ethic is just, it's immeasurable. Like, his work ethic, sometimes I wonder when he sleeps. You know, he checks me, keeps me in check more than I keep him in check sometimes in terms of the workload. So, I mean, it's an amazing human being to find. I mean, there are not a lot of people like that. And you know, I think maybe it's from his swimming days that he's used to training and just being perfect about things. And that's definitely, if you're lucky enough to find an artist like that to manage, I'd say hold on to him, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. No, Sean is definitely very cool, especially in person. He's awesome.
How do you react to a problem like that? If somebody shows up, like, how do you address the people who are like wasted, or like they come and they don't have the respect? What do you do then?
Honestly, it's usually, to me, it's a sign of the end, right? Because if I want something more for you than you want it for yourself, it's not going to work, you know?
Yeah, definitely.
I'll sit down, especially with young people, I'll sit down a couple times and say, hey, listen, you know, you've gotten this talent from God, and, you know, you're blowing it, you know, and you need to show up for yourself, you know, like, don't think that it's all about everybody else laying out the foundation and you just walk in and put the icing on. It's not like that. You got to be there when the house is being built, you know? And you got to put the work in, and I'll have that talk 2 or 3 times, and if I still see the same energy coming from the person, I'll just walk, because I'm like, this is ridiculous. Like, I'm not going to be here putting my all out and then not being sure if you're going to show up or show up on time or put the work in. Then it's pointless. It's a waste of time for me. You know, and it's disrespectful. So if you don't want it, then no problem. You know, and it's happened a number of times. You know, I've always been trying to like find the right person, you know, as a female to manage, and I've gone through a bunch of different artists, and sometimes it's work ethic, and sometimes it's just the other thing that you also encounter is like an artist has to trust your work and your opinions. If I say, look, I think this is the way we should go, and you consistently are contrary to that and say, no, I don't agree, well, then that means either I'm wrong or you're wrong, or we're wrong for each other. You know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Because it's not that I know everything, but if what I think you should do is totally contrary to what you think you should do, then maybe you find another manager.
Yeah, well, they always say like you can't take the horse to the river and force them to drink or something like that. It's a saying. No, the whole horse to the river or something.
Yeah, you can bring a horse to water, but you can't.
Yeah, exactly. That's it. That's the one. So, but yeah, I definitely relate, because even the artists that I've, you know, either consulted or worked with, or if it's not for them, or if they don't want it, or they're too lazy, or whatever the case is, it obviously makes it very difficult, because you cannot go on the stage and sing for them too. You know, like, they have to be able to at least give their part. So I get that. Yeah. You started something called Brand New Machine. You want to talk about that? Okay.
Sure. So, I mean,
how did that start?
Brand New Machine is something I started with Fair and Easy many years ago. We took over a Wednesday night, which at that point wasn't really like a big club night. And we turned it into the biggest club night of the week in Jamaica for about 4 years. Wow. Which was pretty crazy, and we oversaw like just, you know, some awesome. It was the rise of electronic music. It was EDM time, and when we had Diplo, we had Bob Sinclair, we had Congo Rock, we had like all these people come through and play for us just because they were in Jamaica, like doing something else, recording usually. and it was just really awesome to preside over that. And then we just started getting really crazy and creative with our ideas. We had motorbikes riding in the club. We had capoeira dancers, break out in a fake fight. We did photo shoots. We did fashion shows that would start, just in the middle of the dance floor without any kind of announcement.
Yeah.
We did all kind of crazy stuff in there, and it was awesome. And I got to big up my partners at Fiction, KLE Music Group, Entertainment Group, for letting us just kind of go wild. So it was really fun. And then Brand New Machine basically became a label and like a company that we do still do like events or event consultations and stuff like that. And then Friday night and I actually opened our first bar, which was called Stone's Throw. That was a couple of years back, and then of course COVID came along. That put an end to that.
Yeah, that's unfortunate.
So right now, Brand New Machine is kind of on pause until such time as everybody gets vaccinated, or until such time that some miracle comes along and blows this horrible pandemic away.
Yeah.
What's the plans right now? Like, what was Sean focused on last year, knowing that there's no shows? Was it like more recording?
A lot of last year, I think we were kind of sitting waiting to see like what was going to happen, and how is this going to shake out, and how long is it going to last, and nobody really seemed to know. Still, nobody seems to know. There's lights at the end of the tunnel twinkling, but we were not sure what's going to happen and how it's going to shake out. So he spent a lot of time making music. So he's actually dropping 2 albums this year. One called Scorcho, which will be like Island Records, more international record, and one called Live and Living, which is more like dancehall record, and it's collabs with like a lot of his favorite dancehall artists are going to be on that album. And so we're starting to shoot videos and put the finishing touches on those records. So it was like extremely productive year in the studio.
Yeah.
Thankfully, he was building his own studio, and he got it finished in time before COVID really hit. And so he's been creating a very COVID safe space. So that is, when you asked earlier, advice for artists that getting into the game. Number one thing right now is content. If you can't do shows, so you should be focusing on, making content, as much content as you can. And that's what Sean did. So we have like a whole ton of music to release this year, which will be, and I think a lot of artists did that. So it'll be an interesting year that I think the most music is going to come out this year probably than any year in history. But it might stream less because there's going to be so much music for it to share the streams across.
That's true.
You've experienced like before 2000 how the music industry was then and how it is now. Do you think it's easier to become an artist now, or was it easier back then?
That's a great question, and it's something I talk about a lot. It's definitely easier to get your music out now, right? Back in the day, there were so many gatekeepers between our ears and an artist's music, right? In order for us to hear something, it had to pass through a producer, it had to pass through an engineer, it had to pass through, a label manager or a label or an A&R, and then it had to pass through either a DJ or a programming director, before it would get to our ears, right? So our ears were, it's a bit controversial, but I like to say our ears were protected. Right?
Yeah.
They were protected by a lot of people because at any point in that chain, somebody could listen to something and be like, this is trash. There's no way I'm associating my name with this. I'm not putting this out. I'm not playing it. You know what I mean? And I think the music industry nowadays, I can make a record in my bedroom and I can upload it to, I can upload it to DistroKid, or I can upload it to a number of streaming services, and you can have music, and I can have music out, in 2 days. Never done a song before, no one's ever heard it. There's Fruity Loops and all these programs. You can just download beats from the internet, rap on your computer, on your phone, and put music out. Which is that great? Yeah, it's beautiful. It's wonderful that the creativity, can be put into the real world with such ease. That's fantastic. That means anybody could be an artist. I could be an artist by tonight if I wanted to be, right? But what it's done is 2 things. One, flood the market with just so much music that now, in order to get heard, yes, I'm available, but how do I get people to actually listen to me? Is now much more difficult. It's expensive, it's difficult. It's like, even if you have a huge budget, there's no guarantee that you're going to get, the airs that you want. I say to somebody, writing a hit is great, but how are you going to get people to listen to it? You know what I mean? So it's very difficult in that way. And it's also meant like a drop in the overall quality of music. So now it's like I have to rifle through so much music to find something that's quality.
That's actually decent, yeah.
Because there's just so much, everybody can drop as much music as they want. You know, days gone by, you'd work on your album for a year, you'd really be like, okay, I've really finalized it, it's brilliant, it's really perfect, and you put it out. Now it's like I work on a song for 15 minutes and I put it on the internet.
Wow. Yeah, no, definitely there's a lot more noise that you have to try and like pass through. But yeah, it's definitely easy to get your stuff out now.
Yeah, and how would you tackle that problem then that people have, like that there's too much music? Like, do you need to be creative in the marketing, or how do you need to be great at promoting yourself, or?
Well, I think the thing I hate the most about the music industry nowadays is that it's now become about social media, right?
TikTok.
So now it's like, okay, I made a song and I put it out. How do I get people to listen? Okay, now I got to go on social media. I have to get followers. I have to do crazy things, or I have to like take my clothes off, or whatever to get followers. And then when I get the followers, I tell my followers, okay, look, I have music now. Go listen to my music, right? And so in art, it's you've just changed the marketing of the game. Yes, it's a lot more direct marketing, but it's a lot more difficult. You know, there's no gatekeepers, right? Or a lot less gatekeepers to sort of, who do you go to? Like right now, if you want to hear 10 brand new songs that you really like, you know are going to be quality songs, where do you go?
Spotify.
Yeah, YouTube, Spotify.
Yeah, but how do you know? Is there a person? Is there a guy?
No, it's just basically like whatever they tell me.
So that's what playlists have become, right?
Exactly,
playlists on Spotify have become the new DJ, have become the new record company. But a lot of people are like, well, you got to pay to get on this Spotify list, on this playlist, or you're going to submit music until you blue in the face, and that person will just ignore you or decide to put you on, or whatever. And a lot of those things are based on social media. Oh, I want to see how many followers you have before I put you on my playlist. So it's kind of like, it's the chicken and the egg. It's like, how am I going to get followers if nobody listens to my music? And if nobody listens to my music, and nobody wants to play my music. You know what I mean? So it's difficult now to get that, you know, and so you have to be more creative, and you have to be on social media. Nowadays, to be an artist means being a celebrity. And to me, I've never equated those two things. I liked when music was about music, and I didn't even have to know what the singer looked like. But now, you not only have to know what he looks like, I have to know who he's dating. I have to know when he was born, where he was born, what kind of clothes is he wearing, you know, who does he hang out with, everything. Like, there's no secrets, there's no more mystery in music business. You know what I mean? There's a lot of rumors, you know, there's lots of publicity stunts. And then I hate that streams can be created by, you know, I made a video, you know, or my girlfriend made a video of me cheating on her or beating her up or getting in a fight or something like that now results in streams. Like that annoys me. I don't think we should be rewarding bad behavior with music streams. And so people have started to fake incidents or create relationships or break up relationships because, I'm about to release an album. You know what I mean?
I feel that.
Music should stand on its own.
What are your thoughts on TikTok and the influence they had, especially last year, on music? Because I know, like, from Shaggy to this other guy, I can't remember, not Jason, is it Jason Derulo? Have been really riding that whole TikTok I guess roller coaster. What's your thoughts on like, have you thought of maybe, you know, tapping into that market also?
Oh yeah, I mean, Sean's on TikTok. You know, we're doing TikTok stuff, dance challenges, all that kind of thing. The truth is, you know, when things change, whether you like it or not, you got to ride the wave, because if you don't, you get left behind, right? So you're forced to do the social media stuff, you're forced to do the celebrity stuff, you're forced to do, you know, all the dance challenges and, you know, IG lives and all that kind of stuff. You have to do it or you get left behind, right? But do I like it? No, not really. TikTok doesn't pay artists or pays them very little. Their music, they don't identify music very well. So a lot of times there's some remix on there that's not even like a legit remix. You know, it's never been legally released. It's just something that happens to catch on, and then you can't shut it down. You can't go on there and say, hey, this is my voice, and you can, but it takes forever, right? So it's not streamlined in terms of like helping your success as an artist. Now, what you gotta do is you gotta get, you know, viral on TikTok and then transfer that virality to an actual music streaming service. So that's kind of messed up, because to me, like at least on YouTube, if you make a video on YouTube and it starts to get popular, you're making money on your views, right? On TikTok, you're not, or you're making very little. I don't even know if they finalized that agreement yet. They're still working on it. Last I heard. But it's another tool, right? So I mean, the truth is you can't fly in the face of it. It is what it is. Kids love it. You know, dance challenges make songs popular. You know, you gotta keep up with the speed of business or you get left behind. So whether I like it or not doesn't really mean anything. You got to do it, you know, to keep competing.
That's the world we live in right now, right?
So during COVID, you released a book. Congratulations. What was the thought process behind that? When did it start? When you had the idea? Yeah, walk us through. Still trying to order it here, by the way. I think there's an Indonesian situation. Just saying.
I was hoping you'd have a copy in your lap.
I was trying very hard. Trust me, before this, because I know it's been a while, and then we wanted to be there. You know, like buy this book.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think because of where we are, it's not that easy. But it's okay.
Yeah, well, I mean, I do know people in the Middle East who've gotten it, so I know it does ship there. So I know you can get it. I know it's probably very complicated, but right now it's on Amazon only, print on demand. It's a coffee table book, so I definitely don't recommend you getting a Kindle version. It doesn't really make sense,
right.
unless you absolutely can't get a print copy. Then fine. But it's mostly pictures from a perspective of looking down, hence the name Look Down. And it was something I started doing when I was on tour. Is I always found something interesting at my feet, like manhole covers. I find very interesting. It's like, who does the design for those things? You know what I mean? Who does that artwork? It's kind of like a thankless job. I started taking pictures of them, and then like I started noticing other really interesting things happening at that perspective. So I made a whole book about it. I started taking pictures of it, and then I realized I had like 400 pictures from this perspective in my phone.
Wow.
And over COVID, I was just like, you know, I think everybody did this. You go on your phone and you're trying to clean out all the old pictures and make space on your phone, you know. And while I'm doing that, I'm like, wow, I really have a lot of these pictures, and I should do something with it. So I said, all right, I'm going to do a book. And then I put all the pictures together, and I was like, well, I feel like they need a narrative. Like there's just a bunch of pictures that aren't particularly great. Like I'm not a photographer, but they're all interesting things. And so I said, how can I put some kind of context to it? So, you know, over the years, like my dad and my grandfather, both my grandfathers would always, you know, speak in sound bites, you know, and as a parent now, I've started to do the same thing. You know, you repeat yourself a lot. You say things that you hope are catchy, that stick in your kids' brains. And I started to realize that I had a bunch of those things in my brain that I was starting to repeat. So I said, let me do a book like on quotes from my father and grandfathers. So I started, and some of them are funny, and some of them are inspiring, and some of them are, you know, just really, really deep, and some of them are just basic. And there's a whole sort of gamut that they run, which I found really cool. So I started putting those quotes together, and then a few of my own. And then I kind of put the whole thing together in chapters and tried to split the pictures and the quotes into sort of chapters that made sense and told, not really a story, but, you know, sort of gave you that context of like, you know, looking down, as in my father looking down at me growing, or my grandfather looking down at me and growing, and saying, how can I coax this human being to be a better human being, and to, you know, shape them and mold them. And so I thought it kind of went with the whole look down perspective. And so I dedicated the book to my dad, who turned 85 last year. And my two grandfathers who are no longer with us. But and then just to my family, it was like somebody said to me yesterday that, you know, this is such an amazing gift to give the next generation, you know, and I was like, well, that's kind of why I did it, you know. So I wanted to sell and I wanted to be successful, but for the most part, I want to have a copy in my house for my kids when they grow up to go, oh, cool, you know, this is a piece of dad that like we can always refer to.
Yeah, that's amazing. Wow, that's really amazing.
Okay, I'm gonna try harder to get there.
So I'm actually in the process of doing like an updated version, because the one complaint I'm getting is not enough quotes, not enough context about the pictures, which is something I wasn't sure how much to do. It's hard to hit that balance right. So I'm updating it now. So if you wait.
Okay, so I'll wait on the new update. the new edition.
And I'm going to do a hard copy version because right now it's paperback.
Okay. Oh yeah. Well then, yes, I shall wait. See, everything happens for a reason, you know. You don't rush your life. Life just flows. Sorry, you were asking about
How important is it to maintain the roots of reggae in this world, and the music scene in this world? Hello?
Sorry, I didn't catch that. How important is the roots of reggae? Is what you said?
Yeah, to maintain the roots of reggae.
Sorry, one more time.
Sorry, how important is it to maintain the roots of reggae in this world and the music scene?
I think the amazing thing about reggae is, one, it's such a unique drum beat. It's such a unique sound, and it's always had. It imbues people with a feeling of positivity, but not like a false bubblegummy positivity, like a real sort of soul-driven, meditative kind of positivity. And I think that that's something that we absolutely need in the world. And I think it's something that, especially now, you know, during COVID, you're spending so much time alone. The kind of music you're listening to can really affect your mood, you know. And I think a lot of people are struggling with mental illness and depression at this time. You know, and it's something that I'm very, very conscious of. And I feel like it's a responsibility, you know, for if you're putting art into the world at this time, you know, to try and put art into the world that will connect people and keep people thinking positively, feeling positively, you know, and just humming on a positive note. And, you know, I think it's something that just can't be overstated. I think it's super important. And I think reggae definitely has that backbone of, like, people hear reggae and you feel good. And you forget about your problems for a little while and you kind of go, you know, it's really not that bad. You know, there is a natural mystic blowing through the air. You know, I mean, I think that's a powerful, powerful thing.
Now, Sean has
That's epic.
Sean has done many features throughout his career. How do you think, or how have you all pretty much choose who to work with, or what songs he should be a part of, and how important is it to collaborate with other talents?
I think it's interesting, right? So it kind of goes back to the question about putting a song out and how do you get, you know, attention to your song, right? And one of the ways, of course, is to collab, right? Because every person that put on a song with me, I now expose myself to their audience and they expose themselves to my audience. So it's just, it's an absolutely natural thing, you know, to do. You know, if you got 3 people on a record and they're, you know, one's Latin, one's French, and one's English, you now have 3 times the potential market that you did if you just made a record in one of the languages, or, you know, with an artist from one of those, you know, countries. So collaboration is extremely important nowadays, probably more than ever, as a marketing tool. Definitely like a brilliant and easy way to expand your audience. That's one. 2 is, you know, you work with who naturally fits, right? So sometimes it's people reaching out to us and saying, hey, we want to put Sean on this song. Sometimes it's we make a song and we say, yeah, you know, we'd be really great on this song, this person. You know, so, and then sometimes people are like, oh yeah, I want to do it. Sometimes they're like, I don't. So I think it's sort of natural in terms of, like, it's like ingredients of a cake, you know, it's like either things fit together or they don't. It's something that very early in Sean's career, he definitely stepped heavily into. And I think that he wanted to also show that there's no genre that he couldn't naturally exist in. And I think he's done that. He has 98 collaborations.
Wow. Wow, 2 more and it's 100.
Which I'll send you, so you could drop the link under this interview.
Yeah, for sure.
You know, and we're coming down on, by the time this album comes out, it's gonna have over 100. So we're definitely gonna do like some kind of commemoration about it and talk.
No, for sure. No, like that's huge.
He's done stuff with male artists, female artists, with groups, with soca artists, with rock artists, with EDM DJs. You know, there's no limitation. We don't feel like there's anywhere that a little reggae or a little dancehall, a little Sean Paul doesn't make it better. And Jake Gyllenhaal actually said it last year in an interview. He's like, there's no record that exists that Sean Paul couldn't make better.
Yeah, no, actually, we were talking about this
The most
today.
brilliant way of putting it I ever heard. You know what I mean? And it's
No, but it's true. It's like he makes everything like it's like the Midas touch, but with a voice.
Yeah.
You know, like once you hear that Shandabao, or like his iconic, tones and
It's
lyrics.
It's yeah.
Nobody sounds like him. Nobody occupies that vocal
Exactly.
space.
It's unique.
So it's like until he's on that record, the record's not finished. It's kind of like the feeling sometimes I have.
Yeah, no, brilliant. I mean, kudos to him. And maybe, we could work on an Indonesian collab. There's many talents down here. I'm not trying to sell anyone, but I'm just saying. It will happen, and we will make that happen. But yeah, I know it's family day, so I don't want to keep you too long. So there was one last question that I had, and as soon as I remember, I will say it. I'm gonna edit this part out. Just saying.
Okay. The last one for me is like we always do it with all the people coming up to the show. If you could address the world in 10 seconds, the whole world, what would you say?
If I could address the whole world for 10 seconds, I think the main thing I would say is, love more. Love is just an incredible thing, and it changes everything, makes everything better. And I think that we have more in common than we have that separates us. And I think, it's a mistake that humans make all the time, is to take the tiny things that make us different and create them into these huge things. And I think if we just spent more time just realizing the oneness of our experience and the oneness of who we are just as a species, then I think that the world would just be a better place. And I think just general concern, with your fellow man, and not, being so obsessed with, what makes people different, or, what sexuality they are, or what religion they are, or what color they are, and I think it's something that has to start with parents and children, right? And that's the most important form of love. And I think that's what shapes the whole world. So I would love the world to be more in love with one another.
Mic
music, of
drop.
course, helps that too.
Yeah, that's really beautiful. Definitely. Like, so you hear, listeners, love more.
All right. Well,
I said something on Twitter the other day. I said there are very few things in life that Al Green can't make better. You know what I mean? It's like whatever's happening in your life, put on an Al Green album.
Yeah.
I guarantee you it's going to improve. If it's in your love life, if it's in your spiritual life, if it's in whatever it is, you're going to feel better about yourself, man. And that's the power of music to me, Or Bob Marley. I mean, you put on Natural Mystic and tell me you're not in a better mood after that song ends. I don't know. Then you're probably in serious problems.
Yeah.
so true. All right, Steve. Well, thank you again for sharing your experiences, knowledge, and your time.
Thank you very much for your time.
And thanks to the people listening and watching.
Yeah. Thanks. For
listening. We need to do this again, and maybe when the albums drop, we could probably have a little talk with you and Sean. And we drop that ships.
Yeah.
Good.
All right.
We're gonna take one more picture before you leave. We always take a picture as well with you. We're gonna stand against the
screen.
Yeah. Let me show you. This is our whole setup.